How's it going, guys? It's Cole from See-Through Panel showing off Kaiju number 8, volumes 2 and 3 by Naoya Matsumoto, published by Viz Media under the Shonen Jump imprint and retailing for $10 US. Before we get too deep into it, I'm not going to be spoiling anything too explicitly, but I am going to be talking a little bit about volume 1 and just the general premise of volumes 2 and 3. So if you're worried about being spoiled, read them first, come back after, we can talk about it. So, in my last video, you might remember that I pretty enjoyed the first volume quite a bit, but I will say with the second volume, my enjoyment has peaked. Out of the 3 volumes I've read thus far, I think volume 2 is by far and away my favorite volume of the series. I think that it perfectly balances the action scenes with these quieter moments and these kind of character developing social moments. And I really think that I've leaned into my belief that Naoya Matsumoto is a phenomenal artist for the action, for the dynamic scenes, for the large-scale kaiju and things like that, but I think he really shines in the cartoony aspects of his art, where I'll give you an example here. So we're opening on that the last thing that happened in Volume 1 was we were taking the entry exam to get into the Kaiju Defense Force. Some kaiju appeared at that exam that weren't supposed to be there, and they're threatening the lives of the attendees there. So Kafka goes into his kaiju form. That is something he's trying to hide because it is looked down upon, he thinks, by the others. And there is some really great action scenes here. I'll show you. So we go from really badass panel of him looking like he's about to get into it to him pleading, just ridiculous cartooning on that, and just shifting right back into another badass panel where he's going to go in and fight this kaiju 1v1. And see, this is his design sense. Matsumoto's design sense is phenomenal. I really, really enjoy looking at the kaiju designs and how just minor stuff like this, the anatomy comes into play, where he's got these hooks that pop out of his legs, drill into the ground, so we can get more traction for one big punch, while his arm like opens up with a jet on his elbow to propel his fist forward, meaning that he can just atomize this kaiju. Really great page turn here. The skeleton kind of going up the arm, skeletonizing the entire thing, and then ashing it, just disintegrating it. That's fantastic action scene. Pretty badass dialogue there, and then straight into another goofy moment that really shows who Kafka really is. He's not this badass guy. He's really just scared under there, not serious at all, worried about everything, doesn't think he's capable, and he really is getting more and more capable as the series goes on, and it's really fun to watch that development. But that's really what I love about this series, is the quieter moments between, and you can't always have that. Obviously, you need to have action here to satisfy audiences and to move the story forward, to get the plot going, but I do really enjoy the downtime scenes. So after this, we get some really fun downtime stuff. They're in the hospital. More of the backstory of his old friend Mina, who was the most powerful woman in the Defense Force, or person in the Defense Force in general, coming back and kind of him trying to make amends with her. And I really enjoy this stuff. New kind of primary antagonist showing his face, and another new character here that's taking Kafka under his wing. He's the vice captain. Really great design that kind of undersells how capable he is. Just in general, I think this volume really balanced everything just perfectly and made it such a satisfying read. It felt like a lot of progression happened. People are getting much stronger. The social bonds of being on this team together, everyone's kind of grouping up together and getting to know each other and using their skills to kind of make a more simpatico team, really. Kafka gets 1% out of his armor, while other people are getting like high 30s or 40s, and he's really happy about that. And yeah, just some really great down moments that I quite enjoyed. New characters introduction. Then we go into their first mission as a team. Kafka's pretty nervous. There's an example of the art style switching from regular, pretty serious stuff to just cartoony, expressionist, really goofy stuff, which I enjoy. Yeah, so we go into this next fight scene where our team, who is still new people, they're not supposed to do anything too crazy, just take care of the smaller stuff, and then the other more experienced members will take care of the big stuff. Here's a phenomenal action scene. Speed lines all over the place there. 96% combat power, the highest we've seen in the series, of course, coming from Mina. Classic cartoony face there. Yeah, and just ending with our primary antagonist here in a really freakish transformation. He uses his fingers as like a finger gun kind of thing, but they get all balled up at the end, and then he shoots that. And it gets rather violent. Our kind of secondary protagonist, our sidekick kind of character, that's kind of reductive, but Reno just takes a beating from this guy. A little bit of a close-up, kind of horror tint. Takes an absolute beating from this guy, gets shot multiple times, and kind of, yeah. And it really ups the stakes for Volume 3, where we've got two characters bloodied and laying in a very dangerous situation when Kafka appears with a very ink-splattered page. I always love when artists get really, really inky with it, really dark. Makes it really satisfying and quite a badass moment. Ending the volume with a nasty punch that decapitates the guy. But that is not the end of the fight. That is a bit of a spoiler, but that is not the end of the fight, I promise you. Getting into Volume 3, I'm not going to spoil this one much more. I think I'm just going to... We start off in the middle of that fight, kind of wrapping things up, and get into kind of a second fight that is, in my opinion, a lot more interesting, because kaiju fights are really cool, but I do like to see the actual characters that we've interacted with kind of shown their power levels in the action. Because while I do like the quieter moments, I also want to... I've never seen this guy in action. I've seen him in the quieter moments, and he's a likable character, but how does he play out when things get heavy? And it's really satisfying to look at this stuff. The only thing I'll say that kind of brought down 3 below 2 for me, Volume 3 below Volume 2, is the kind of lack of the quieter moments. I'm probably alone in this, but there's a ton of action in Volume 3. It's almost all action, and it's really satisfying. And manga is super decompressed, so like your one fight scene can take up almost half a volume or a whole volume in some manga. And here it's not to that extent. It's probably a quarter of this volume. Then we get some nice downtime and like a post-mission briefing and some more post-mission bonding. Everyone drinks together except for the underage people and kind of hash out how the mission went. And I found that to be really satisfying and kind of strengthening those bonds with the characters and getting to know the people who we didn't know as well. And he does give end of volume. Let's see if I can find any. I'll have to go back. At the end of each volume, he gives kind of like a character summary of how he designed the character and what the character is about to him, being Matsumoto. So here's a character we really didn't know a lot about. We've seen him talk before, we've seen his portrait, and we've seen some dialogue from him, but we weren't really sure what his deal was. And so we get a briefing on him. And the second to last chapter of this volume has really great design with these kind of pterodactyl-like kaiju being ridden by this warrior-like leader character, which is really, really cool. Let's see if I can see. Ah, it must be right after this. Great shot of him walking away, feeling nice and peaceful after a long night, and just chaos coming down behind him. Really loud sound effects. This was a really satisfying volume. I think it was a little rushed how we went from Fight A into Fight B almost within like 20 pages, where we didn't have a lot of that downtime and plot progression. But the plot progression often does in series like this and shown in manga come from the action, and I'm sure that's where this is going, where a lot of the movement of the plot is going to be from right here. And this guy flicks, and he flicks so hard that it is a projectile, and I got a good laugh out of that. I think it might just be me, but I think Matsumoto's kind of doing stuff like that on purpose, where some stuff's so silly and out there that you can laugh at it, but it can still be really cool and have a satisfying fight scene with it, and that's kind of what these characters are all about. So yeah, I really am loving this series. I'm definitely going to get 4 and 5. Expect to see those in the next haul video. I'm probably going to start... Right now I'm reading The Tower, published by IDW. I'm not even going to bother to try and say the French names that made it. Shuiten, maybe? Shuiten? I don't know. But I'm going to read that, review that next, then get into Mashal, because I'm really excited to see Mashal, Magic and Muscles. I'm interested, because that's like a very limited series that I think only has like 12 to 14 volumes, so I can actually read the whole thing and talk about the whole series at some point, which I want to do, because a lot of these manga run for so long, I'm never going to get to the end, and I do like a conclusion to my stories. So, but for now, this is probably the top manga of the ones I'm reading so far, so I just love it. If you have recommendations for shonen that kind of match this vibe, kind of like a comedy, it's just got a lot of comedy infused into it, and a lot of quieter moments, and like really nice character development, and the personalities I think are very wholesome. It's generally quite a wholesome book, and I really enjoy that so far. It's not like you never get done reading Kaiju number 8 and you're like on a down note, like that was really a downer. Doesn't really happen. It's all just either really badass, really funny, or really heartwarming. That's pretty much the 3 modes this book has. So if you have any other recommendations for stuff like that, let me know, because I'm really into it from right now. So thanks a lot for watching, guys. Peace.